with heirs, a generational peer and ally who would increase their influence in the West Wing. So it's kind of, as we know, the Pepe faction and the business Republican faction that dominate the Trump White House, or warring for domination in the Trump White House. We have Jared and Ivanka, as the Pepe side would call them, the New York Democratic Jewish Coalition, pretty much the New York Jews, the New York banker Jews is pretty much how they call them. But then Ayers, after they thought Ayers was in, Ayers was like, I'm out. And his surprise decision to walk away from Trump's offer has blown open this chief of staff search. And now we got Newt Gingrich, Chris Christie, Mark Meadows saying no, blah, blah. We have no idea. So yeah, this was a big repudiation of Jared, a prominent Republican close to the White House said. According to a source, Trump instructed Kushner, who almost never speaks publicly, to appear on Sean Hannity's show Monday night to be a face of this chief of staff debacle. Saying Trump said, you're going to go on there and defend me and take the blame for the chief of staff as punishment. A source briefed on the conversation said Kushner's hit was spun externally as a discussion of prison reform. So it was, mostly about the chief of staff thing. So I guess he wasn't happy about that, and he is, again, being blamed by the idiot Donald Trump. And it looks like right now the Pepe faction has the upper hand in the White House. So yeah, we're keeping score here. The Pepe faction versus the New York Jew faction. Yeah. With Ayers out, Trump appears to be taking a hard look at candidates with different politics and style than what Kushner and Ivanka would approve of. And then we got Citizens United President Dave Bossie at the White House on Friday. He's a Fox News contributor. He is a Steve Bannon ally. Bossie, again, was deputy campaign manager of the 2016 campaign. He was a political street fighter and a close confidant of Corey Lewandowski and Steve Bannon. So yeah, Citizens United, that name may sound familiar from the Supreme Court case. And yes, it's that Citizens United. So just get to already, that first line in his bio gives you an idea of who this guy is and his political position. So, with House Democrats poised to launch an investigation of Trump in January, Bossie's experience in political trench warfare is viewed by Trump as a plus. Trump is all over how Bossie, he knows investigations, folks. And one Republican briefed on the search has said. Bossie is among several hardliners Trump is considering for the job at the Army-Navy game. Trump quizzed his friends about the House Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows and Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Trump replied, I love Matt, one person who overheard the conversation said. And then with Bossie, Meadows, and Whitaker getting serious attention, Kushner and Ivanka are racing now to interject a new horse in the race. Politico reported that they have recommended Steve Mnuchin. Mnuchin said to be not interested. And one source they've suggested is former Deputy National Security Advisor Dina Powell, but a source to Powell said probably wants to make the most obvious decision ever, continue raking it in at the expense of all the poor and the peasants in America, where she is right now at Goldman Sachs. So yeah, she's going to be perfectly fine with that. Thank you very much. I can't believe Goldman Sachs banker was the National Security Advisor. That's crazy. Deputy National Security Advisor, excuse me. So we also have, the problem is, as Kelly found, the Trump is, again, impossible manager. It does not matter who the president has in there, he'll do what he wants. And there needs to be someone in there who can take that. And one person who can take that is someone from the Pepe side who's way more loyal, I feel like the Pepe side of the Pepe faction, the Pepe the Frog faction, is a way more kind of, what's the word? They're way more like, they don't have other things going on in their life. They're pretty much tied to Trump, and they can take it if Trump disappoints them on something. So, and it looks like that's what they're going to have to do. All right, crazy new editorial today in the Washington Post about this whole situation with the wall at the border and everything. The Post view is this: build the wall, everybody! Bam, bam, bam! Let's build that wall. No. The Washington Post editorial board. This is going to be rough. Washington Post's editorial board, another stunning display of good judgment. Again, following people like the Wall Street Journal and endorsing Jair Bolsonaro for the presidency of Brazil, the prime minister, whatever, has decided that President Trump's request for $5 billion to fund a border wall is not a moral issue, but a no-brainer that congressional Democrats should take in exchange for a legal path to citizenship for DACA recipients. That is next levels of stupid. again, from the Washington Post. And again, this is what worries me. Like, this is a paper that a lot of people who actually are, I really don't think, again, this is not going to have too much effect, like, outside Washington. I don't think many people are going to listen to this. But the fact that people are, like, I just don't know. I don't know, because I'm struggling to put my finger on here as we do the show about who, like, what's the constituency? Like, who are the people that wake up every day and think about what does the Washington Post editorial board have to say? And let me, like, really weigh my opinion on the day's news on it. And I don't think that's too many people, which I think is a good thing. But, like, this to me kind of, their opinion represents the opinion of the Washington media, the conventional establishment, the elites, and maybe some more business elites. I think that is very, very, very sketchy that they are thinking this way. And again, their position is time and time again, fascism, morality, all that goes out the window. Like the fight against fascism, the fight against morality, that goes out the window when it comes to possible business interests, possible respect, possible power. Like, when there's power to be gained, that's the most important thing. And when there's a weighing choice of fascism versus any kind of leftism, fascism always wins. Any kind of real leftism, fascism always wins. And even if it's Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump, there's going to be a big group of people who are going to come out and say, you know what, I'll hold my nose and vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump, again, for 2020, over Bernie Sanders. That's what you're going to see in the Washington Post. This is what this translates to in the 2020 Bernie versus Trump possible candidacy. So just be ready for that. So apparently it's a no-brainer. So put aside Tuesday's Oval Office theatrics, the Post writes, so remember this. There's a compromise within reach on the wall. Yeah, giving Trump everything he wants for the wall. $5 billion, that's a compromise. There's a compromise within reach on the wall, and immigration of President Trump and congressional Democrats. If each side has a spine of fortitude, face down its most rabid partisans and take it. Breathe deeply here, baby. Breathe deeply. So this is their editorial board saying that giving Trump everything he wants is that's a compromise. And you just gotta stop those partisans, huh? How about you're literally calling America rabid leftist partisans, because 69% of the people think building the wall is the bad idea. And the Washington Post responds, great. Who cares? Throw that out the window and let's have a compromise. This is the exact same stupid thinking that got us Trump, that got us half the American, like not more than half, like 90% of the American people hating the government, hating the media, hating the establishment, and that's why that got us Donald Trump. Like, that's the root of the cause right here. This kind of thinking, it's just a compromise. It's a compromise. It's a compromise. So we move further right. Since when is building a wall to combat a non-existent problem? Like, you think they're just sneaking over the border? No. A far majority of illegal immigrants, they don't come in through the border. They come through visas. They overstay their visas, and that's the way the problem works. They're not just popping up. Like, a wall's not going to stop them. They're going to get through visas, and then they're going to overstay their boundaries, and then they're going to become gradually again undocumented. That's how it's going to work. So, yeah, that's pretty much how it's going to work. And it's not, the wall will do nothing to help it. Again, that's just debunking the wall. But the fact that the Washington Post, again, wants to support the idea of a wall on the southern border to keep out, we're having net loss of immigration, or net neutral immigration, depending on what year you look at, is ridiculous. And this is, again, we move further right. We can't accept this as a compromise when it's, in reality, a far-right position Americans do not support. In no way will any smart, logical person accept, okay, this is a compromise. It is not under any stretch of the imagination a compromise. This is ridiculous. Yeah, so after describing the benefits of their pretend offer horse trade wall funding in exchange for safety of 1 million DACA recipients and restoring temporary protected status to hundreds of thousands of Haitians, Hondurans, and Salvadorians, a deal which, just to reiterate, has not been reported to be on the table. Again, they're not going to give you that. They're not even going to give you that because they're partisans. Talk about rabid partisans. They have some rabid partisans. They will not take a DACA deal in exchange for the wall. No, they won't. It's never going to happen. And every Republican fears the Republican base because the Republican base is the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is behind Trump, and it's not behind Trump for a pansy compromise with Democrats the media is going to like. And so that's how nothing's going to get done. And here's the only way things are going to get done. Democratic control. That simple. That simple. Democratic majority. This is passed, and you're not going to get any Democratic compromise on this, or any Republican compromise on this, because Republicans, partisans, Republicans, extremists are way stronger on this. Way stronger. They're not going to put that deal on the table. They're never going to put that deal on the table. Granted, funding the wall, even if it changes, is distasteful to a lot of Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, the right wing, they didn't say that, but likely House Speaker, has called it immoral. And many of the party have suggested that supported past efforts to bolster security along the border, more border patrol agents, more technology, more infrastructure, yes, including barriers. They chastise the framing and the opposition of the wall as a moral issue, a stretch, and they sneer, and they like, and yeah, that's pretty much what they do. Any compromise worth the trouble involves painful concessions from each side, but in this case, if assessed with cool heads, the concessions are far cry from excruciating. They are excruciating if we literally toss $5 billion into a desert. You know what we may as well do? If we take this, we may fill $5 billion and put it in a helicopter and open the hatch, because that's what is going to happen. $5 million flying out over the desert, and it's just going to go all to waste. And doing something that, like, bending to the will of 30% of the country is not majority rule, it's not what Americans support, and it's not the way our democracy should work. That is something. This is not a little joke. This is not a little funding thing. Not a little just picky little decision. It's whether or not we literally become an isolated country willing to turn away people who are seeking escape from drug violence, like that, gang violence of all kinds, all that kind of stuff. A compromise on the wall is not going to happen, and certainly what's not going to happen is giving Trump $5 billion to take in a helicopter and dump out over the desert to waste on building this ridiculous border wall. It's going to be an issue when immigration is still a problem and the Republicans want more. They're not going to take that deal. They're not going to take that deal, and even if they do, it's a stupid deal. It's that simple. All right. Yes. This is my little rant of the day. I feel like we do way more rants at night, but I always got to love a nice rant of the day, which is pretty hilarious. Yeah. Now that we got that cleared up, Mehdi Hasan. We did last show. We talked about Hamilton Nolan of Splinter. Now we're going to do Mehdi Hasan of The Intercept, making the possible case for a Elizabeth Warren 2020 run. And Democrats, take a listen, because this could become a reality. Yeah, so is Elizabeth Warren finished her putative presidential campaign before it's begun? So say a growing number of political pundits and reporters. Her home state newspaper, the Boston Globe, which urged Massachusetts Senator to run against Hillary Clinton in 2016, now claims that she's a divisive figure and suggests there's reason to be skeptical of her prospective candidacy in 2020. New York Times argued on its front page that the lingering cloud over her likely presidential campaign is only darkened as a result of her now infamous DNA test to prove her Native American ancestry, which is really rough. Yeah, that was a rough one. I'd be interested to see as we're only right now kind of the introduction of his article, but I would be interested in seeing how this turns out. The Times reporter Estelle Herndon quoted members of the senators' inner circle saying that they were shocked and rattled by her decision to take the test. Other critics have pointed to recent polls, which suggest support for Warren's presidential bid is waning. So my response, ignore them, he says. This is not a good idea. Okay, buddy. you can't just ignore polls here, because